I like Borderlands 3, but this is a statement I am not stating myself, but more so referring to, as it's easily one of the more commented phrases on my channel in regards to this game. So, what does that mean? You like the game, but, well, let's properly break down the definition of the word but. It means this. It is used to introduce a phrase or clause contrasting with what has already been mentioned. So, it's a statement that contrasts from the beginning or original statement. Now that we've gone back to the 3rd grade for a moment, and I can confirm that everybody watching has indeed passed the school year, why is this one of the more popular quotes in regards to Borderlands 3? Well, it's pretty simple. Even the fans of the game who do enjoy it, a majority of them can still acknowledge what the game did wrong and where it could have been better. While sure, you can say this about literally any of the Borderlands games. For example, I really enjoy Borderlands 2, but there's plenty of issues with that game. And you know what? It's even my favorite game of all time, but I can still acknowledge those issues with it. So it would be a little disingenuous if I were to just sit here and, shit on that statement for the sake of it having the word but in it. Well, at least that's what I thought. Then I realized that most of these buts result in them just admitting that they enjoy a worse game than the previous releases, which is a problem in the gaming space because we shouldn't get comfortable with paying the same, if not more, for lesser quality content. I know that I haven't, and I wanted to assess some comments today that very much fit the mold of today's discussion. And if you're curious, most of these comments are taken from a video that I posted just yesterday that I will leave in the top of the link in the description. It is called The Fans Want Another Borderlands 2. And a couple of these comments are literally using the word but in their statements, and a couple others are very similar. Now, I also want to say that this isn't to bash anybody or to make them upset. Some of the comments we're going to look at today are very valid. Now, with that being said, let's just get right into it. The first comment says, I liked Borderlands 3, but they need to make a sequel to Borderlands 2. It had the perfect ending for a sequel. They found a map of vaults, and the sequel should have them go to one of the vaults, and after that, they can go to a few more. They can add more as DLC. A perfect example of how not every single but is going to just completely invalidate the original statement. As you can see here at the start, he said, I like Borderlands 3. But then he went on to speak about how he would still enjoy a proper sequel to Borderlands 2 instead of what we got with the 3rd game. And I completely agree, other than the fact that, of course, I do not like Borderlands 3. I still agree with this entire comment. And this next one, this guy says, I don't get you. I currently playing all of the games with several characters. I having fun. Especially with Borderlands 3 and Borderlands the pre-sequel. I will say Borderlands 2 is the best game in the series, but that is simply because I love playing Gage more than any other Vault Hunter. So in my previous video, a lot of people got misconstrued and they thought that I was trying to talk some shit on the pre-sequel, but I actually do enjoy that game. I was just knocking it for having no end game after you reach the max level. And if anybody out there is having fun with Borderlands 3, that's great. I'm glad you guys are enjoying a Borderlands title that you want to play. For me personally, Borderlands 3 is not a game that I want to play. Whether it's the awful visuals that literally make my brain bleed while I'm playing, the legendaries being tossed out like candy on Halloween, and yeah, I could go on and on. But to whoever left this original comment here, what else did he say? Something about, let me read it again. Because I love playing Gage more than any other Vault Hunter, he was saying that that's why Borderlands 2 is the best in the series. Okay, well, you see, Gage is fine. Not the worst character in the series by any means, but she's by a landslide the weakest Vault Hunter in Borderlands 2. And you know what? That's fine, because Gage is still a hell of a lot better than the 4 Vault Hunters that we got in Borderlands 3. I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Vault Hunter, come up to Sanctuary.
Talk to Lilith.
Time to talk to Lilith.
Aboard Sanctuary
On the
3.
opposite end of the ship.
Talk to Lilith.
Who put this in the game?
And my suffering.
And this next one's actually from a couple of weeks ago, but it was too funny, I had to mention it. He says, BL3 Brian here, and I enjoy the gameplay of BL3, but BL2 is peak story, and BL1 is just bland in my opinion, and I'm not even going to talk about Tales or Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. But wait, hang on, you said you're not going to talk about Wonderlands, but it's literally on the same engine as Borderlands 3, the game that you just said you enjoy the gameplay most of.
Huh?
Well, anyway, I'm gonna just disregard that. Maybe you just hate Wonderlands a little more than Borderlands 3, and that's fine. That's a valid opinion. And you said that BL2 is peak story. And I do agree with you, but listen, you can enjoy the BL3 gameplay and all that all you want. You are entitled to have that opinion, and I've got nothing against you for thinking that way. But the problem with the BL3 main campaign story is that it literally takes over 20 hours to complete per character. And for me personally, I would rather do anything else than to spend another 20 hours in that dog shit game. And this next comment comes in from Maria, and she says, and Tiny Tina's in-game beated BL2? I'm just gonna repeat what I replied to her with. It's a simple one-word answer, and I think it pretty much sums it up. No. I feel if they make a BL2 with BL3 balancing and legendary scaling. Something has me wondering, you may not have finished your statement here, but whatever the case may be, I just want to say that I don't agree with the Borderlands 3 legendary scaling, and I understand the argument for it. You get a lot more legendaries, so it's like you don't have to spend so much time farming, it's more time actually playing the game, as people say. But let's be real here for a minute. Farming is a part of the Borderlands games. And also the balancing of Borderlands 3 for me personally is just way too fucking easy. That game, I honestly, one day I might challenge myself to do a one life blind after not playing the game for years. Because I genuinely think that I could probably beat the entire game while taking very few deaths, and maybe even none at all. And this next one comes from a video a couple of days ago where Gearbox confirmed that Wonderlands was a cash grab. They say BL3 DLC was a mixed bag. It suffers from some of the same pacing issue as the main story, though not as bad. Personally, I really like the map design of 1 through 3, and would probably place DLC 2 as the best overall on launch. One thing I was pleasantly surprised by was the size of the content. In BL1, I would have never made it through a first playthrough of the Knock Zombie or Claptrap DLC with all of the side quests in one sitting. In BL2, I regularly finished the campaign DLCs in one go. And I'm just gonna go ahead and slow it down a little bit. You guys can read this if you want, but his big statement starts with the word that we're talking about today, but there is a lot of downsides to that. And then he goes on to mention a lot of his complaints with Borderlands 3. As I said, you can read that if you want. I will have that on screen scrolling because it is a very large message that if I read, this video would probably be like 20 minutes long. So I did want to go ahead and put it on screen, let you guys see what I was talking about. He also goes on about a lot of things in Borderlands 2 that should have been in 3 or that could make a potential Borderlands 4 better. So I do think it's a great read for anybody that's interested. Like I said, this is a guy who did enjoy the third Borderlands game, but then he goes on to start a massive essay with the word but, talking about problems with the game. And this is a perfect example of the comments that I'm trying to highlight today. And the next comment comes from a video where I broke down the Borderlands movie trailer Backlash and how it was just completely awful. I mean, people were dogging the game online for days, weeks. It was bad, man. But anyway, this guy says, LOL, butt hurt much. Looks like a fun movie. If you don't think so, don't watch it, you whiny bitch. Cheers, fucker. Well, it's a big show. Bow, bow. I did not mean to upset you, man. I really didn't. But I do want to say cheers since you said cheers to me. I hope you're smoking on something good, drinking something good, whatever whatever floats your boat. And this next guy, he says, when you say BL2 and the pre-sequel have better graphics than BL3, and BL3 has only slightly better gameplay mechanics, we know that you're just hating to hate. Stop making Borderlands videos if you didn't like 3, New Tales, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and then you don't like the franchise anymore. Move on. Guys, I think I gotta quit. This guy said I have to move on. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just get up from my chair now. I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna go ahead and just quit this YouTube thing. It was good while it lasted. I appreciate the 10,000 of you for showing up. That'll be Hellfire, I'm out. And yes, I have my bones to pick with New Tales and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It's really Borderlands 3 that does irk me the worst, as it was the hard start to a torrential downfall of this series. And yes, in my opinion, I think that visually Borderlands 2, the pre-sequel, and even Borderlands 1 look better than Borderlands 3, because at least I can play Borderlands 1 and not have to fucking have a bottle of Tylenol on my desk. But for my BL3 Brians out there, just remember, you guys can keep the headache simulator, just don't try and force that shit on me, okay? Okay, now that we've got that established. And the next one says, besides story, which is just basically another word for but, 3 is the best by a large margin. As I said earlier, you are entitled to that opinion. In my personal opinion, I do not agree. I do not think that Borderlands 3 is the best at anything when it comes to the series. I don't even like the fast travel system in the game, which a lot of people love, how you can go to different points in the map and quickly travel around. But no, in all reality, all that does is promote you to not explore these maps. Borderlands 2, you are forced by foot to traverse yourself across these maps, and because of that, you will find new and interesting ways to not only get across the map, but maybe even see things that you haven't seen before, even if you've played the game for a decade or more. Like I said, you're entitled to your opinion, and if you like Borderlands 3 more, there is nothing wrong with that, but I just wanted to give a couple of my reasons why and show a couple of comments from fans of the game who are also frustrated with how the series has been treated as a whole. And even though some of them like Borderlands 3, they still have their issues with it, much like some of us veterans do with Borderlands 3, or even like Borderlands 2, like I mentioned earlier, has its fair share of issues. The pre-sequel has no endgame. There's so many issues with all of these games, and I just wanted to discuss mainly Borderlands 3 because it gets a brunt of that criticism, but not only that, a lot of the criticism comes from fans of the game that are also sugarcoating it a little bit, some of them, but the others are being completely genuine. My point is, I don't want you to ever feel like you can't share something in my comment section. I want it to be an open book for everybody with all opinions to make their thoughts known down below. Most Borderlands 3 fans are aware that the franchise is dying. A lot of them just don't want to admit that Borderlands 3 has a lot more to do with it than actually meets the eye. In his next comment that I want to round out this video with, he says, "We've been cooked since Borderlands 3. Rest in peace to one of the greatest series to ever grace the televisions of couch co-op multiplayer, people." And that one was on a video where I talked about the newest Borderlands project that was announced. It is a Wonderlands comic book, and that video is titled Borderlands is Dying. And I completely agree, my friend. It does look like the franchise is indeed slipping into an early grave. And it's sad to see that even the fans of Borderlands 3 have to use words like but and besides this or besides that to explain themselves about why they like this game. Because a lot of the problems that the players complain about could have easily been patched or put out of the game completely before it was launched. And I know some people are completely happy with the game as it is. And you know what? Hats off to you. I'm glad you're happy with it and you have a finished perfect product that you just love to play and put thousands of hours into. But Borderlands 3 is not it. And to me, it just kind of blends together. So, for me personally, I don't like Borderlands 3. But at least I still have Borderlands 2 to play.